We're back, people. What is up? Another stream today. Going over guys that I actually want to talk about that I actually think might actually have some trade value. The other day, Dolphins released a bunch of players, guys that I don't think had any trade value. Then we talked about some of the guys that could potentially still be released, but they're the guys that I think they're going to see at least maybe they can get some picks for. And also some other things I want to talk about involving the cap situation and like the whole signing Malik Willis situation. Because if you do look like if you look at the Dolphins cap situation this year, it is quite bad. They're in a very tough spot in 2026 due to the cap. But if you look at 2027, they're going to have so much cap space that year, like more than they'll actually spend. And we actually consider like the new regime brought in, like they're never going to be super high spenders in free agency. Like there might be a guy or two that they go after that like are solid, but I don't think they're ever going to be like a very high spender going after multiple high end free agents. And currently, right now in 2027, they're projected to have 105 mil right now. That's not counting the bump that's going to happen that year, and that's also not counting being off of Tua's contract, which will give you cap space in 2027. It's not counting being off Bradley Chubb's contract, which will give you extra money in 2027. So like you are going to have so much cap space in 2027, and you don't have that many players on the roster that need to be like extended, because that was what like cap space is used for. I think in the new regime is like extending your own guys, and the Dolphins don't have that many guys to extend it. At least like, you got Achane, you got Brewer, Brooks. That's about it, at least in the immediate future. So like that's why I don't see much downside when it comes to signing Malik Willis. That's why I wanted to talk about that real quick, because I'm like, even if you sign Malik Willis and it doesn't work out, I don't really think it affects you that negatively, like cap space wise. I don't think it would hurt you enough to where like, oh, you can't do anything now, especially when you look at their like 2027 situation. So I just wanted to mention that real quick, because I see a lot of people being down, and like I'm not trying to overpay Malik, but I'm like looking at the situation. I'm like, really, what's much of a downside, Oh, and Achan. Yeah, did I not say Achan? Achan, Brewer, Brooks, and I don't think Achan, Brewer, Brooks are gonna like completely break the bank, So, but yeah, talking about some players with trade value, because now we're going to players that haven't been traded yet. And because yesterday it was reported by Jordan Schultz, I believe, that the Dolphins have been having trade talks with teams regarding Minkah Fitzpatrick. Because Minkah actually has some trade value. Now, trying to figure out what his trade value I think is a little bit tough. I don't see him going higher than a day 3 pick personally. I'd be a little surprised by that. Unless it was like you got like a round 3 but gave up a round 5 or something like that. That's the only way I could see it happening. But I think I think Marcus, you just said Minkah round 4. Like 4, I think would be like I'd be pretty happy with that. I think a 5th round pick, it would also not surprise me. That would probably be a fair expectation. Anything lower would be a little bit disappointing, but getting a pick for Minkah when he's probably not a part of the long-term plans. Like Minkah is one of the players, like out of the veterans, he's one of the players like I don't mind keeping around though. But I also don't mind moving on from him. I think getting a pick. I love Minkah as a player. I think he's still quite good. I think he still has some value. He's gonna have like a 15 mil cap hit for every trades for him. He'll probably get like an extension for wherever he goes to. He's still 29, so he's not like out of the not gonna be like he's not super old. So I think the new team that could still help. He's not going to like super break the bank for the new team. So I think depending on situation, if you think about it, last year he got traded basically for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu. Plus there was a 5th involved. So like that is a tough trade to try to compare it to what he'd be worth now. But he is coming off a strong season. And I think with how the NFL looked last year, with a lot of teams playing in more 3 safety sets, having safeties play in the nickel, I actually wonder like if that would help boost Minkah's value, because Minkah, I actually think, is at his most valuable playing in that nickel role, that nickel position, because I think it allows him to show off like his playmaking ability a little bit more, athleticism, man-to-man skills, things like that. But yeah, you'd bring Marcus brought up all the players I wanted to mention. Waddle's another name that will be brought up a lot. I think a lot of people want to trade Waddle, and there was those rumors that it was a 2027 first and a 2026 third from the Bills. I don't know if you would get that exactly from other teams. Obviously, that was Buffalo, and they're probably trying to oversell a bit because it's an in-division trade. But a reason I actually don't see Waddle trade happening, because I think one people aren't looking at with the Waddle trade, if you trade him before June 1st, which is if they do trade him, I think that's when they would try to trade him, is before June 1st, because they would want draft picks this year. Unless they're just thinking of 2027, then I guess that's more of a possibility. But they would lose almost $12 million in cap space with a Waddle trade. Like, they can't afford that. They're at currently at like $3 million in cap space, and they're not going to go much higher than that until the Chubb numbers hit post June 1st, which they'll gain 20 mil there from Chubb. And they're going to have to like sign people, and the Chubb money, I believe, will be used for the draft class that they sign. That will be, I think, the thinking there. But I would be pretty surprised if Waddle got traded because of the cap hit. Are we seriously considering trading Waddle, Achan? I doubt it. And that's why I don't think they're seriously. I think they'll listen to anything. I think anything is on the table for this new regime because it is a new regime. They'll listen, but I think the Waddle thing is super unlikely because of that negative cap hit that it would cause. Or is it just baseless? I'm just going over potential trade candidates because of the Minkah rumors. And it seems like from the reports, Sully does like him some draft picks, you know? It seems like he's values draft picks. I just think the Waddle's one of the more unlikely ones was because, one, he's still young enough to... He's still young, talented, very good, and the Dolphins need some players to actually build around. And it also just affects you negatively cap-wise, and I don't think they can really afford to do that this year. Obviously, after this year, they'll be fine. I just don't know if it makes much sense for them to do it. I wouldn't do it personally. Then we get to some, like, the other guys that didn't get cut that maybe could have potentially got cut are guys like Austin Jackson. I don't know if Jackson has much trade value. I think if he didn't have the injury history, maybe you could get a late-round pick for him because tackle is a premium position. Jackson is still fairly young, and he's not also super cheap. Let me look. Austin Jackson is still 26 years old. Like, that's crazy. He was drafted, and he was like 20, so he was a super young player. That will always help with trade value, so maybe that thinks they can get some value there from him. But let's see. If they do trade Jackson pre-June 1st, it would be 13 million dead cap and only 1 million savings. But at least you wouldn't lose money. But it would also boost your 2027 outlook, because post June 1st trade is for Jackson is 11 million savings. I guess a post June 1st is a possibility, but I think if the Dolphins are looking to trade, they're trying to get picks now, you know. Yeah, I don't see him having much trade value. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to keep Jackson because he's still very young and the Dolphins need O-line help, and they just keep him for another year. But I think they'll try to maybe add someone in the draft that could be like a potential replacement for him. I don't think the loss of cap space matters at all in relation to Waddle. He represents significant draft value. I would not be even slightly surprised. But like, you can't be under the cap limit. Right now, the Dolphins have 3 million cap space. If they trade Waddle, they lose 11 million and go negative 8 million. So you would have to cut other people. Like, you couldn't actually physically trade Waddle as of right now if you're Miami. So it definitely matters. Like yeah, if they could figure out how to work it out cap wise, sure. But like, I don't think they can physically trade Waddle. Same thing with Zach Sealer. If Sealer got traded, they would lose 7 million cap space. That's why, like, Sealer's another guy I don't see the Dolphins potentially moving on from, even though Sealer would probably get you like a later round pick, if I had to guess. But I don't know. I would be very surprised. Like, I don't, and like, they really can't create much cap space. Like right now, after all the guys they cut, like, really the only cap space that can be sort of created is with some extensions to guys like Brooks, Brewer, Achan. You can create some extensions there. That would help you out a little bit, but then you'd still just barely be over with a Waddle trade. You would need to trade Tua as well, which we don't know if that's going to happen yet. I still think that's a possibility, but I'm not something I'm banking on. I don't believe in that whole nonsense that people are talking about, like giving up a big pick to trade Tua. Like, I think that's stupid. I think if they do the Brock Osweiler approach, I don't know what the hell. What's Fitz trade value any day? I would say like in that 4th, 5th round area. Yes, it would require some contract shuffles, but the cap can be managed. Oh, I mean, they can definitely make it work, but like, I just don't see it as like worth it at all. You know, like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, they can't create that much cap space. Like, realistically, it'd have to be a trade. Bradley Chubb's money doesn't come till post June 1st. If they traded you can only create like 1 mil from getting rid of Austin Jackson. You would have to extend Brooks, Brewer, Achane. You would have to cut like Alec Ingold, and even then, if you trade Waddle, you hit 11 mil. Like, find me hard pressed to trade one of my best players to also take an 11 mil cap hit. That's 27, even if it's a first round pick. Like, I don't know. I just don't see the logic there at all. I'm just taking so many hits there. What's the point of signing Malik Willis if his added win value is like max plus 3 wins on a team that is definitely not going to win much? Because you want quarterback, I think we can all agree, is the most valuable position. And I'm looking at quarterback, and usually in free agency, quarterback is not where I'm looking to. I think it's very rare to find a quarterback with some potential upside. But I think Malik Willis has more than 1 year upside for you as a team. I think that's a possibility. So I'm not looking at it from just a 1 year thing. It would be to give many opportunities as possible to try to find a long-term option, or someone that's maybe not long-term, but like, someone that I can maybe win with in 2 or 3 years with a better team around him, which I think Malik Willis with a better team around him can win. I think he showed a lot in Green Bay. Guy was super, super accurate, even down the field. Like, he had such a high completion percentage with like a high like yards per pass attempt, like air yards as well. It's just to create as many opportunities to basically take a chance at like a quarterback as possible. Like, what's the downside of signing Malik Willis, if it doesn't work out? Like, what's the downside, really? You take a little bit of cap hit in 2027, which in 2027, the cap, you'll be fine. Trading Waddle gets the contract off the books. Yeah, but that only helps you later on. And in 2020, they don't need help later on. They actually need to, like, in 2027, they need more. They actually need more players to pay. And Waddle, like, his cap hit is pretty big next year. It's like 33 million, but that's fine. Like, next year they could cut him and save 17 million in 2027. They're gonna have so much cap space next year, like more than they'll actually have to spend, because they're never gonna be big spenders in free agency. So that really doesn't, like, getting Waddle's contract off the books. I think Waddle actually has a pretty team-friendly contract. So that doesn't really add much value, in my opinion, to trading Waddle. No Willis, he is probably out of our price range. Miami will not get the 20 plus mil until post June 1st. Yeah, that is true, Irving. I'm just saying, if they do sign Malik Willis, I think it will be like a big signing bonus, but his contract hit this year would be like, it'd be like near vet minimum in year 1, but then year 2 would be like a huge hit, It'd be like the year 2 would have like the 30 mil hit or something like that, which the Dolphins could afford to do very easily because of the 2027 outlook. 2027 is a QB year. On paper, sure, but people also thought 2020, at this point last year, people also thought the 2026 year was the QB year. And then that didn't turn out to happen. So I try to not look too far ahead, because sometimes those classes don't always turn out to be the same way that you expect. The downside is winning by more games that team needs, when likely we don't make the playoffs regardless. See, that's the only like logical reason I can understand, is if you're thinking of tanking. But in my opinion, teams don't think that way. So it's pretty much irrelevant to talk about. Like, yes, from fans, we're thinking like, oh, we're not going to win any games anyway, so we might as well just suck and play the worst players possible. But like, teams don't think that way, So To me, I'm thinking let's get as ahead of it and try to take as many shots at quarterback as possible. That's why we want to build from the inside out. Trading Waddle buys more opportunity to do that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to build from inside out, sure. And I know they say they want to build inside out, but at the end of the day, it's still taking best player available in the draft. If the best player available is an outside guy, I mean, I'm taking the outside guy or the inside guy. If it's relatively even, then I might take the inside trench player. I don't know. I just really can't. It's really hard for me to find much logic in trading Waddle for this team. And I'm a huge fan of draft picks. I love getting draft picks, but really hard to see too much logic in trading Waddle, for me at least. Especially when you other teams will outbid for Miami for Malik. We are tanking. We are not tanking. I don't think people understand. Like NFL teams don't tank. There might be like, oh, maybe the owner thinks like, oh, we're tanking. The coaches, the GMs, the players, they are not tanking. They are fighting for their jobs in the NFL. Like they are not tanking. Malik Willis has such a bad sample size. You mean small sample size. His sample size is good, but you mean small sample size. His sample size is really good, like playing top tier. Don't mean to be a douche, but if anyone doesn't understand the Malik logic, yeah, to be fair, if you don't understand the Malik Willis logic signing at this point, it's probably just you just don't understand it, which is fine. It is what it is. Like I can understand why people are a little bit worrisome about going after Malik, but I also can be like, you're not going to find many better dart throws in free agency than Malik Willis. Now, if it goes like crazy, crazy high number, then yeah, you just don't do it. Tanking equals not a good team. That's not what that equals. But tanking means purposely trying to lose. I do agree the Dolphins are not a good team right now, but they are going to try to build a good team. Now, it might not more so happen until 2027, but it doesn't mean you should just kick on 2026 and not try to add talent, you know? What he did in that sample size, his sample size is bad. His sample size is small, but the sample size he showed is good. That is true, Dundee. Draft picks do have zero sample size. That is a good way of looking at it. Because sometimes guys go to the NFL and they end up in a different situation and they're just not the player you end up expecting. That can very much happen. It could happen to Malik Willis. It could happen to any draft picks. Like I think Fernando Mendoza will be a quality pro. I think Joe Shad said he has a 0% chance of being a bust. Well, I think he's a low bust guy. No prospect has a 0% chance of being a bust. Even the best like prospects ever, like the Caleb Downs of this class is the guy with the lowest chance of being a bust. But there's so much shit that could happen that could still make it not be 0%. Prepared to watch my team win 2 to 3 games. I mean, we'll see what the end roster ends up being. It's just, I don't know, man. I just think I don't expect a lot of wins, but I'm expecting more. So like a little more than 2 to 3. Willis, Ewers, one of Taylor Green, Allard, Payton would be a fun QB room. Yeah, I saw a report that I think Cole Payton was getting pushed up a decent amount, which I don't know if I agree with, but I think some QBs are going to get pushed up in this class. Just because of the class, like after Mendoza, it seems like it's a little bit of a crapshoot. That's why, like, I would just wait to take quarterback because there's no one like I love, so might as well just take whoever ends up falling a bit. Is there any other players that I didn't talk about? Oh, There are potential trade guys. I don't know if there is really. I mean, I guess guys like if someone like I think every player is on the table. Like if they wanted to overpay for a Jordan Brooks or an Aaron Brewer or an A-Chan, I guess they'll listen. Honestly, Patrick Paul is probably the only player who I think they might hang up because he's premium position, left tackle, still young, super cheap. I think the only reason they'd listen to Brooks, Brewer, and Achane is because they're on the final years of their deals. But I still think it's pretty unlikely for them to get traded unless they just didn't see him as scheme fits. But even Brewer and Brooks are still young enough to, be impact players for another few years. Okay, what about trading for Joe Milton? Worth it and how much? It'd be a late round pick for me. I'm not a Joe Milton. I think the Patriots were lucky. Didn't they get a pretty high draft pick for him from Dallas? Just because he had like one game playing against backups. Talk about a small sample size. What was that pick? Didn't he get like a fourth or something? Or was it a fifth? It's not that. I guess it's not that crazy. I don't know. I mean, he's not a horrible dart throw to have. Honestly, I'd rather go if you could get like Will Levis for fairly cheap. That's not a bad dart throw. Spencer Rattler, and like if those are cheap trade options, why not? It's not guys that I love. Like I've seen the Anthony Richardson thing out there. Like I don't love Anthony Richardson, but if you got him for cheap and he's 23, worst dart throws to have. Cole Payne looked kind of bad in the Senior Bowl. Yeah, I watched some of his practice film. It was not super encouraging, but I also did see. Where is that? Hold on. Oh yeah, if you look at this, let me pull this up actually. Funnily enough, talking about Patrick Paul, Cole Payne. Here, can you guys see this? This was the left tackle pressure rate 2025 season. Patrick Paul was fourth, 4.33%. I do think I want to, like, he was behind Bowles, Thomas Tunsil. I do think the Dolphins system is a big part of this, though. It definitely helps out guys like Paul, because if you also look at the right tackle pressure list, Larry Borum was sixth. He had like basically the same pressure rate allowed. I think he had a lower pressure rate allowed than the left tackle Patrick Paul, because Paul's just 4.33. And I think this shows how helpful Miami's scheme can in being like limiting pressure rate. But I wonder if that means they'll bring Borum back. Because Borum, if he's cheap, I don't mind bringing Borum back because we're running the same scheme. Wait, hold on. I feel like I just forgot it. Yeah, he had a lower pressure rate allowed than Paul, at least according to these metrics. Pressure rate can be a little misleading depending on what metrics you look at, because some people disagree on what a pressure is. But yeah. Well, actually, trading Tua is the only way to really help the cap, because cutting him really hurts the cap. If they cut him, it would have to be post June 1st, because they would still take a cap hit even post June 1st. But it would the Bradley Chubb would kind of negate that a little bit of it. But if they trade him, they can actually get some cap savings, depending on how much the other team is willing to pay, which is sort of like the whole point of trading him. I don't think they're going to get them to pay much, but it can at least help mitigate some of the problems. To be fair to Paul, he was often on an island and Borum was getting help. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good rating for Paul. I just think the Dolphins system in general, like Borum was getting more help, But the Dolphins system in general, they're doing a lot of jump setting. They're doing a lot of like full slides, so neither guy is really getting one-on-one true situations. The Dolphins just with their scheme don't put their guys in a lot of true like one-on-one pass set situations. That's why it can be kind of annoying. I actually think Paul is actually better in pass pro than as a run blocker, so that's why sometimes it can be kind of annoying to watch Paul's film because I'm like, I want to watch Paul's best reps, but like they're not having him true pass set. It can be frustrating. I'm like, I'm trying to find the good stuff, but it's mostly just neutral because they're not asking their O-line to do anything. And then when they do the true pass set stuff, it's Jonah or Cole Strange losing instantly, and you don't get to really watch the other guys do anything. So I'm like, oh, that's annoying. Tua's 100% getting cut. If Hill got cut, Tua for sure. I mean, it's just different situations. They're still trying to trade Tua. I do think it's more likely he gets cut, but I think Tua, there was at least a slight percentage of him getting traded. Tyreek coming off that injury, he was never going to get you anything. You think Savage could go back to right tackle? That's where he played the most in college. I wouldn't put him at tackle. I would at least give him right guard. And if he's really bad at right guard and left guard, then maybe throw him at right tackle. Maybe that will miraculously save him. I don't expect it to. That would be pre-June 1st, right? I believe so, Edward. I'm not a cap expert, but I believe so, at least from what I'm reading. And like my understanding, like it would, if you do it pre-June 1st, like it would be pretty much all 2026. 2027, man, like they're in. If you want cap space in 2027, they'll have a lot. Like I'm guessing a lot of the free agents they sign this year, like, and I don't expect them to sign a lot of them, but they're going to sign a lot of cheap guys. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, if it's multiple, if they sign anyone to like multiple year contracts, a lot of it's pushed to 2027 because they're going to have too much money to spend in 2027, more than they'll know what to do with. Strange, yeah. I don't mind bringing back Borum and Strange. I don't think they're ideal starters, but with the situation the Dolphins are in, you know, they probably will end up seeing some playing time if they were brought back. Jermod McCoy or Mansour Delane? I think they're both quite good. I would, if I'm just going strictly based on film, I would say McCoy. I think the injury thing and him not playing in 25 is a little bit concerning, but I'm not as concerned as maybe other people because he doesn't have a history of injuries, and it's just that ACL, and he's had a long time to heal. So like if NFL teams think his knee checks out, like I'm not gonna argue with that. I don't really have. And he's a very good player. McCoy's really good. I got to watch McCoy play in person because that's when I was going to Tennessee games, and McCoy was like probably the best player on the field in most of those games. What could we get for Minkah? What round draft pick? My guess is day 3, somewhere like round 4 or 5, or something equal to that sort of value. So maybe you get a round 3, but you have to give him a 5th or a 6th, something like that. I presume Green Bay. Yeah, I did see that. That is, yeah, he said Green Bay in the last 6 years has signed guys more. I think it might have been a different number than 2.5 million. Or no, was it 2.5 million? Yeah, 2.5 million. But over this, they've had only out 6 contracts higher than 2.5 million average to external free agents. So, and only 6, and the Dolphins give out 36. I do not expect the Dolphins to ever be like huge spenders. Maybe they go a little more than Green Bay does because the Dolphins will have to do at least a little bit of a reset, at least maybe in 2027. But I do expect most of the team to be built through the draft. So, is Hood good? Hood is a good man corner. He's pretty solid. He's probably like a round 2 guy in my opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised. Wait, let me see this. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's, I don't think I'm missing anyone that could actually get traded. Nothing else really makes any sense. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not as, like, if you're gonna be like a heavy press man team, then yeah, I think Colton Hood has a lot of value. But I do have some concerns with guys that are like, I think, teams just run more zone in the NFL nowadays. You run a lot of zone. Like, even the heavy man teams, they're still running zone, 50% of the time. So I think that can sometimes be misleading. You believe we were staying away from older rookies in this class? I don't know if I believe we're staying away. It's tough to guess because Green Bay did take some older rookies last year, or guys that were like 23, which is, I would say 23 is like the start of being older. 24 is pretty old for a rookie. But I would guess for the most part they'll go fairly young. But I wouldn't be surprised if like a guy or two is a little bit older because this class does have some older players for sure. Like there's a couple edge rushers that are pretty old, like Romello Height, Akeem Messidor, Tucker from Western Michigan's like 26, gonna be 26. Like, that's crazy. Like Akeem Messidor is 25, man. Messidor, and he's got some good film. Don't get me wrong. Or he's gonna be 25. Yeah, he's 24 right now, but he's going to be 25 before the draft. Like he's gonna be 25 April 5th. Like you gotta, kind of project like Jalen Phillips is 26 right now. Could you imagine Jalen Phillips just a year ago playing in college football? Like the amount of dominance he would have had over those college kids? Like, that would be insane. Like, that's something you gotta at least consider. Abney or Chris Johnson? Chris Johnson. I don't think we were getting Malik Willis. It wouldn't be worth it. How high is our ceiling with Malik Willis? 7 wins max. Next year, I don't know, but like, how high is your ceiling with Malik Willis if you build a roster around him? I think it can be fairly high. Like, I think you're just looking at it too short term. Like for me, the only reason I'm trying to sign, like, I don't like signing free agents like quarterbacks that are going to be expensive for short term. I understand that. Like, it's a 1-year thing. Like, I don't want to sign Garoppolo or Kirk Cousins. Like, those guys don't have any future upside. Like, yeah, just play Quinn Ewers. But like, I can see Malik Willis, who's still fairly young and has, I think some of his best balls ahead of him. I could see him being a potential long-term option. Will it work out like that? Don't know for sure, but I don't know. I don't see much harm in going after him. Other than, thinking the Dolphins are tanking, which they'll probably lose a lot of games next year, but the Dolphins tanked before and it didn't work out for them. I think you need to take as many shots at finding a quarterback as possible. I think, if anything, this past year showed you that you can do it in many different ways. Seahawks took a risk. They traded Geno Smith and signed Sam Darnold, a free agent, and then won the Super Bowl. Not saying the Dolphins are in that situation, but I think it shows that like you need to just be taking shots at quarterbacks. You build it through the draft. Because that's the thing, is I don't think signing Malik Willis takes you out from drafting a quarterback in 2027. I didn't like the Jay Phillips trades, but when I saw his improved effort in Philly, I changed my mind. I like the Jalen Phillips trade just because I didn't think he would get re-signed. And I like Jalen Phillips. And I think he played with high effort. I would not, I think Jalen Phillips was one of the highest effort players in Miami. He's honestly one of the higher effort players I've ever seen. I'm a Phillips fan, though. Maybe I'm biased. Yeah, Jalen Phillips is a free agent. They don't. They will. I don't think they would be bringing him back. Build it from the ground up this year without committing to a full-on fire sale. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what they end up coming up with because I really don't know what would have been, or I don't know exactly what they're doing. Actually, tanking worked. We just messed up all those draft picks. Well, honestly, they did fail to tank because they were trying to tank for the first overall pick, and they did fail. But that's the thing is like the coaches weren't tanking, the players weren't tanking. I think in Ross's mind, he was trying to tank, but they didn't. They didn't end up following through on that. They did mess up on some of those picks, though. That's for sure. Time to go home, GP. That would be funny if they did bring Jalen Phillips back. It would be fun. Yeah, Burrow went first overall. But to be fair, Burrow's also had a pretty big injury history, so we probably would have messed that up too. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect the Dolphins to be active in free agency. Like, really, the only high-profile free agent I could see them signing is Malik Willis because, like, I just think quarterback. Like, I just think there's exceptions to the rules, and quarterback is the exception to the rules that you can try to break. And I don't think the Dolphins will go after many other high-profile guys. Also, he comes from Green Bay, so there's that connection. I think that kind of leads into it. But outside of that, like, I don't see them being super active in free agency this year. They'll re-sign some guys that are cheap. They'll probably sign some other very cheap options. But I expect this team to be built mostly through the draft. 2027, they'll have to sign somebody. Like, if they don't sign anyone in free agency, that's like at least a decent prospect, like a not like the highest high end guy, but like someone pretty high end. I'd be surprised because like they're gonna have too much cap space to work with, and not enough guys on the roster that they can give that money out to as of right now. Taking Waddle over Sewell seemed like the most obvious pick and best tackle prospect in years and crazy. He felt that 6 year was objectively the wrong move. I mean, yeah, taking Sewell probably would have been the better move, but I also see a lot of people complain about that when it comes to Waddle, and I just think it's people use that as like a way to hate on Waddle, and it seems weird to me when people do that. Like hate on Greer if you want to, I don't care. But like if you go back and look, the Dolphins have actually at the time had invested into tackle. They had not invested into wide receiver. So like I think some people kind of misremember the timeline. Like receiver was a huge need at that time. And Waddle is one of the only good picks we have made. Like one of the only good top picks we even have on the team. Hadley does play a lot of, so does he really run a lot of 4-3? I saw a graph where it showed like teams, like I saw a graph and the Packers were one of the only teams that truly played a hybrid. And when I watched the film, I was thinking like, I never really was thinking like, oh, this is a 4-3, this is a 3-4. Like I was just thinking like, this is a multiple NFL defense that doesn't really have a base, you know? And that's how I feel about most NFL defenses nowadays. Like, there are certain teams that run some clear 3-4 or 4-3, like old school coaches and stuff. But I think it's very multiple. And the Packers were one of the teams that fell into the category of like a clear hybrid. So I think like if you see a player that's like, oh, this is only a 4-3 player, this is only a 3-4 player, I don't think it really matters for Miami. I think they can make it work sort of in different ways depending on where they go. Waddle was drafted before the Tyreek trade. Yeah, because I think people fail to remember Tua's weapons the year before Waddle was like Preston Williams, Lynn Bowden Jr., Malcolm Perry. Like these are the guys that were playing off the top of my head. Isaiah Ford, Devontae Parker was our best receiver, and we know that was like he wasn't playing a ton. He was like gone by, but he might have even been gone by that point. Gesicki was like the Dolphins' best receiver, which is embarrassing. So like receiver was a huge need. But yeah. I've seen the Robert Wilson. Oh yeah. See, I don't even remember if he was. I don't remember if he was playing around that time. Actually, I think he was gone by then, because I think he stopped after the COVID season, right? And that was 2019, because he didn't play during COVID, and I think he stopped playing after that. Or you mean Albert Wilson, right? I was trying to think. I'm like, Robert Wilson doesn't seem right. Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant. That's another one. Have you seen him run like 3.35? Not exactly. That's only really run much in college, like an actual 3.35. But I think like as I've talked about in the NFL, most teams aren't even running like when they're on nickel, it's like a lot of times it's like really two down guys, and then like the guys are standing up on the edge. So it's like, do you consider that a 4-man front, or is it more of a 2-man front? These guys are outside linebackers. It kind of depends on where they're aligned. I don't know. I've really stopped caring about the whole 3-4-4-3 thing. Like I feel like I haven't cared about that in years. Like it's not even something I really think about. I just think about where guys succeed, like alignment wise, when I'm watching people. He was a player we just signed. I've seen people ask for that, but like I don't know if there's really film out there to watch. Like a lot of these guys we signed, like I don't think they've really played. There's like not much film to break down. I mean, I can look it up again to see if there's more film than I originally thought, but there's not really like NFL film to break down on these guys. Like these are just more so, high upside, trying to hit a signing. Let's see, a guy that has like a great athletic traits. But I think he was mostly just special teams. Come on, sign in, please. I'm trying to look up his name, see if any actual plays pop up. Albert, yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think like Robert Wilson. I know who you're talking about, but like I don't think that's exactly right. Miles Battle. Let's see. Yeah, Miles Battle in 2025. It looks like he only played 29 total snaps and was in week 17. So I can watch those 29 snaps from one game and see if I can get a film breakdown out of it, but I don't know if I will be able to get enough actual 29 plays in a week 17 game. Like he only played in one game and they were up 42-3 when he played his first snap. And it was against the Jets, so it's tough to really get an idea of who he is. What number is he here? Here, you know what? Let's do this live. Here you go. Miles Battle is 35, so let's see where he is. I think he's at the top of the screen here. It's probably just gonna be mostly run plays. Let's see if he gets involved in run support. Yeah, he's got like the great physical tools. Fly downhill, involved in run support. Okay, makes the tackle on the first play. There we go. Let's see if there's any pass plays. Let's see if he messes up on this long touchdown run. Let's see his speed here. Does he? Nah, not really on him. Let's see if he has enough speed here. I mean, he had a bit of an angle. Here he makes a tackle and runs, or in a pass versus Adonai Mitchell, 35. Okay, here at the top or bottom of the screen. Let's see if he's just playing off. Yeah, not too much to really break down there. It's just there's not much film. Fuck it, we'll do it live. I just like literally they are not gonna pass. Like this game's just over. Like right there, like you don't see like the change of the direction. Like didn't look super springy for a guy that has like some elite explosiveness. Here's another play kind of being completed against him. I know I'm not on it right now, but actually, hold on. Let me go to. It said he got targeted 4 times and gave 2 catches in this game, so we can watch. I got to give him at least 1 play. Here's his 2. We'll watch his 2 reps. His 2 reps where he apparently was targeted and didn't give him the catch. So they're in Tampa 2. Okay. This is not necessarily a great play in terms of a target and like a reception you don't give up because the guy just drops it. But I will say in terms of playing as like the flat corner here, open up your hips, you're kind of reading eyes to hear 2 breaks out. You're kind of leveraging multiple concepts, eyes into the quarterback. Transition is pretty clean, not any wasted movement here. He's in a good position. I would say like his leverage and positioning is good here. Would have liked to see the running back actually catch it. Let's go to the next play. This is another one where he gets targeted, I believe. At least it has him listed as being targeted. One-on-one with Mitchell? In the slot? Okay, I mean, fairly good rep versus Mitchell, who's at least a NFL-level receiver. He can actually match up with that size and athleticism that sort of Mitchell has. Good leverage and positioning, understands the situation. Like he has his outside leverage initially, but knows based on like their alignment here, like he wants to cheat back to the inside, gets back into that inside leverage, but then gets to control there. I like his positioning, stays square, good bend, but it's not like I can learn much about him from just that, Yeah, he's 6'3", 196, 437, 40. Gaskin, yep. Isaiah Ford did just become assistant coach. I forgot about that. Was Cam Willard just some random late offseason roll of the dice? Well, I think they probably saw him as a scheme fit, which he does sort of have that play style that I think people like for the Shanahan system. And he's just another young, I think they see him as like a potential roll of the dice. They probably brought him in. They maybe liked his film last year. He went, I think he might have went even before Ewers in the draft. He went in that range that Ewers went. So just another sort of dart throw, I'm guessing. Was McCoy's tape last season as good as Downs this season, considering different positions? It's tough to compare because safeties and corners so different. I mean, if you like, he has more like McCoy had more losses, but that's just the nature of the corner position. I think Downs was just like so consistent. You might think McCoy's more valuable, but I would probably take Downs a little bit ahead in terms of just like straight up film. Kuntz, his RAS was ridiculous. To be fair, when I watched Kuntz coming out, I actually thought of him more as like he was a Gesicki type to me, and I'm not a big Gesicki play style at tight end. Like I'm not a fan of that play style at tight end. I don't like guys that can't really get yak. Those more like long-legged guys don't have much like lateral quickness. Like they really only excel on like a vertical plane. Those tight ends just have very limited skill sets and what they can do. And he doesn't block. That's sort of what Zach was when he reminded me coming out of what school did he come out of? It was like some like Old Dominion or something. I remember watching him when he came out. Zach and college. It was Old Dominion. He also went to Penn State before that. Funny that he went to Penn State and I thought he was Gesicki like. If Bane is there at 11, do you go him or Sonny? That's tough for me, I'll be honest, because I personally actually think Styles is a better prospect, but Bane plays a much more valuable position. That's so tough. Honestly, I might still go Sonny Styles, but that's just me personally. I wouldn't be mad if they win. Good film breakdown, Kenneth Grant. By the way, what do you think of PFS of Alan Grant? I think it's definitely pretty harsh. I think the early season stuff was fair on Grant. But like they had him as like, but they had him as a point where like they thought of him as like the worst D tackle in the NFL. But like if you really watch film of all defensive tackles, he definitely was not the worst. And like after the Panthers game, like he never had any of those like horrible reps again. Like those really bad reps he had like in the Carolina game and like some of the early games. Like he never had those reps again throughout the rest of the season. Like he had his losses, but they were never anything even comparable to that. He definitely played better, and I do think Halfley's system is pretty good fit for him. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in year 2. Sonny Styles seems like as a bro. Yeah, like I think Styles has less bust potential than Bane. Like I think Bane will be pretty solid, but I do think there are some worrisome things there. But I think he'll be pretty good. I could just see Styles being like a special linebacker in the league. BBA available unless the difference of BPA comes to positional value. Yeah, pretty much it's BPA, and then if it's fairly equal, then you take the either the bigger need or the more positional value pick. If it's like your BPA is like you have the guys on like the same tier, because that's sort of how people stack their grades. They sometimes have, depending if you're doing like a vertical or horizontal stack. Like if it's like a horizontal, like and you got guys in the same graded area, then it just comes down like that's why you see like when they show like those scouting rooms, you see a lot of the scouting rooms where it's like they're talking about like 2, maybe 3 guys about who they're going to take at this pick, and then you see the arguments that, or not the arguments, but like the discussions they have, being like, oh, this guy's being like, I think we should take this guy for this reason, and usually I think 2 teams do lead towards. That's when they start to lean towards need or positional value is when they have those guys stacked like that. How do you feel about adopting Green Bay's draft and develop style? I'm curious as a Packers fan. I think overall I am happy with it. I have always been a build through the draft guy. I hated what the Dolphins did in 2022. In 2023, when they only had 4 picks in each draft, I thought that was like a horrible strategy. I do think Green Bay maybe goes a little bit too light in free agency. Like I think they could get a little more aggressive, but I think overall I like the philosophy more than what Miami is doing. I think some teams do it pretty well where it's like you're building through the draft, but knowing when to be a little more aggressive in free agency, like adding the right guys. When you are in a situation where you can add in free agency, like I understand you want to build your culture, your team the right way. You don't want to add too many outside guys from other teams. But I think they could go a little bit more. Ryder, do you believe in PPA? I haven't heard you speak on this subject before. Well, as you guys might have heard, I'm a big fan of BPA. I think it would be a short time where he unseats Dodson. Oh yeah, I mean, if Sonny, and another big thing that I like about Sonny Styles is I think he can be the green dot guy. I think if you take a linebacker in the draft, you're looking for a green dot guy because Jordan Brooks is not. He doesn't really excel as the green dot guy. Like Dotson, when Dotson's green dot, that's when Brooks can excel. I think Brooks could do it, but I don't think we need that. And I think Sonny Styles could be like that green dot leader of the defense for many years. That's also a reason I like Caleb Downs because it feels like Caleb Downs could just be like instantly the leader of your defense. Like he aligns people, he gets people where they need to be. That guy is so smart. You think Keontae Scott can play safety as well as slot / nickel? I mean, I'm sure he could, but I think he's more of like a slot nickel, strong safety, which is somewhat similar at times to playing nickel. Thoughts on Marlon Klein? Yeah, I need more film on Marlon Klein, but I do remember thinking he was pretty intriguing. Like he had some pretty good athletic traits from what I saw. Unfortunately, Michigan just doesn't throw the ball. Because apparently this is something I could see him blowing up at the combine. I literally have this in my notes. Could blow up at the combine. Apparently has some GPS times have him at over 21 miles per hour. That's insane for a tight end. And he has like good size too. Like he's good size. Like he seems like one of the more fun developmental tight ends. It's just I've only had like one game of film to really watch on him. So I need more film to like really feel good about him. But he did seem very intriguing. Because I think there's some receiving upside there, because Michigan sucked at throwing the ball, so you didn't really get to see it. Seems like PFS is early perceived opinion and then score based off that. You have to think like they have so many different people. Just they have different people grade different teams, so like biases come into play. PFF grades they can be fun, but I just don't like when people use them as gospel, because I actually think their system can be pretty flawed at times, at least from like certain things. I like their tight end blocking grades. Oh my god! Like if you looked at their tight end blocking grades, like some of them are ridiculous because it's just not taking into account like what's being asked of the player. Like some of their lowest graded blockers last year for like the tight ends were the guys that were consistently asked to block in line and make like the tough blocks 1-on-1 versus an edge, and they were like the lowest rated blockers. But like guys who weren't asked to block in line like that just only blocked DBs out in space, like they were super high rated blockers, like way higher rated. But like if they were asked to do that, like they can't do it at all. That's why like I think their grading system can be so misleading at times. Like another thing, like linebacker, I don't know if it's still like this, but I know at a time it was like they only graded like linebackers getting targeted, like for coverage grade. Like they didn't grade their reps where they're not getting targeted, which I think is kind of dumb. But how many players did you have as BPA over Kenneth Grant last year? Off the top of my head, probably a few. But also some of them were like question marks because I didn't know like the injury stuff on them. But I mean, I do like Kenneth Grant. I think Kenneth Grant's gonna be pretty good. I feel pretty good about Grant's development at the end of the year, but hopefully in a new system, you never know. But I don't know. I feel much more confident in Grant than I do like a Jonah. Like Jonah is a very big concern, but we'll see how that ends up. Yeah, Igbinosun. I think my only question mark with Igbinosun is when I was watching him, the film, I didn't get to see him be too involved in run support, and that's a big requirement I think of playing inside. At least the film I've watched, so I want to see like does he have more of that physicality to play inside? But yeah, I do think it's a possibility. I don't know. I am looking to take some DBs that are very willing tacklers, even if they're small. Like that's one thing like you just asked about like Chris Johnson is a willing tackler and he has a very low missed tackle rate. Like I want willing tacklers that don't miss a bunch of tackles. I think that's something underrated about DBs in today's NFL. Like even if they're smaller, like that's fine as long as they're willing and they'll make some tackles. Which honestly, a lot of the most willing tackling DBs are the smaller guys. But I would say Johnson, then Pons, then Abney for me. But I don't dislike any of those guys. Like I just think Abney's more of like a round 3-4 player in my opinion, and I think he's solid there. And then Johnson and Pons are more like round 2-ish. Yeah. To answer your question, the only player I remember as BPA at my BPA player last year was Warren for mine, but I didn't think they would take him. I'd never thought they would take a tight end that early. Unfortunately. Is there a stat for missed tackles are broken for the Dolphins defense? Uh, I'm sure I could find it. That's run defense has been a high scored trait. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it might be. It could be. I think the film I watched, I don't think I saw him make many tackles. but it could have just been those games. Like it wasn't like he was missing tackles, but I just didn't see him get involved, which is sometimes that happens for a corner. That's also can be a trouble with safety film. Sometimes you watch safety film and like the guy's just playing on the back end and like they don't get targeted the whole game. It'd be frustrating. Abenos is a DPI penalty waiting to happen. Yes, he does get a little. He does need to clean that up, and that is something I don't like with corners. And that's something I like last year it was the kid from Kansas, and he ended up going like very late in the draft or undrafted. I think it was both of them actually because they both corners from Kansas. They just had such big holding problems. Yeah, I'm probably gonna end it there. Yeah, we're going for about an hour. Okay, yeah, thank